win the pre-snap to win the post-snap. And it's kind of like a really good thing to remember about, like offense, defense, first down, third down, fourth down, first quarter, fourth quarter, overtime, doesn't matter. Like, be together, be a team, break it together, get up to the line, get ready to go.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
One last thing before we get into today's episode. A lot of people ask how they can support the podcast. Well, I have a couple easy ways. The first way is just listen and subscribe. And another thing you can do is go follow the Roughnecks podcast on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube as well. If you get something out of today's show, then do me a favor, share it with a friend. If you really want to go above and beyond to support the podcast, then head over to roughneckspodcast.com and get you some of that merch. I appreciate all of the support, but let's get into today's episode.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Roughnecks podcast. We have been absent. We've been MIA for about 2 weeks now. I have not got episodes recorded. That is on me. Summer's been busy, but, going off of summer, we just had the 2020 Roughnecks summer merch drop. New merch just hit the website. I believe it was the 15th. Friday the 15th is when it all came out. There's things on there. I'm actually wearing most of it right now. I got the shorts on. I also had the fishing shirt on. There's a handful of different items out there. Go check out the website, roughneckspodcast.com, for the new 2022 summer merch drop. That stuff will be disappearing. Some of it will not stay. It will not stay on the website for forever. It will disappear in the fall once the fall drop comes, which the fall drop will be in September. A couple other things. I wanted to make a couple quick announcements. I still do have my deal with Leo supplements. I still take my platinum joint support every day, and if you need pre-workout, you need protein, all kinds of different things, go over to leosupplements.com and use the promo code Roughnecks for $10, 10%. I don't remember. I think it's 10% off your order. So go over to Leo Supplements, LEO supplements.com for all of your supplement needs. Final announcement is, if you are a small business in the area of, Ohio, Central Ohio, and you want to sponsor a hole at a golf outing, let me know, because American Hero Hunt, I had Justin and Randy on not too long ago. American Hero Hunt is a nonprofit organization. They're doing their second annual golf outing. I just sponsored a hole. They're still looking for hole sponsors. So if you guys are interested in being a hole sponsor, let me know. Or I believe you can go to AmericanHeroHuntGolfOuting.com. I believe that's the website. If you type in American Hero Hunt Golf Outing, you'll find the website. And it's $100 to sponsor a hole. Goes towards a good cause. Definitely think if you are a small business in the area, you should look into it. But today's episode, let's get into today's episode, because I'm excited about this one. I have a guest with me here today. We're doing another in-person episode. Love these in-person episodes. But Nic Eader, welcome to the Roughnecks podcast.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Glad we're finally able to find a time and sit down and chat.
Yeah, it's been a long time in the making of getting this worked out. I don't even remember. I think it was right after Quorum's episode that we agreed to do it, and then it's just been busy and trying to work out our schedules and make things work. It's hard to. I have that with a lot of guests, and it's not necessarily the guest's fault. A lot of it is my fault as well. Like, just being busy and trying to match up schedules is sometimes a difficult task.
Yeah, I just moved up to Mount Vernon in June, so that was kind of a big change for me. And I told you that. I was like, well, we hope for June, and June came and went. And after that, we just kind of found another time, and glad we're finally here.
Heck, it feels like July's already came and went. It's already the 23rd, and I feel like just last weekend was like the 4th of July weekend. Like, summer, it's like, for a while, like, I feel like it goes slow, like from January to like March, April, May, that area, it's like drags out. And then all of a sudden, like, summer's here, like what everybody looks forward to. And then it's August before you know it. And you're like, what just happened? Like, it was just July 4th yesterday.
Yeah, my uncle and I have always said that July 4th to Labor Day is the fastest 2 months of the year. And
That
maybe that's
makes
because
sense.
I'm a teacher, maybe because I love
Yeah.
football, whatever, just looking forward to it. So it's kind of bittersweet,
Mhm.
kind of getting ready for football season, but also like as a teacher, it's kind of like, hey, my summer's kind of going
Yeah,
away. So
it's
it's
like
like,
you're getting the best of like you're getting the
yeah,
good and the bad with it. But
right.
you kind of already mentioned some of it, but just go ahead and give a background on who you are for the Roughnecks listeners who don't know who you are.
Yeah, Nic Eader. I grew up in Pataskala, graduated from Watkins Memorial in 2013. Played football there, did track and field, the throwing events, shot put and discus. After high school, I went to Ohio State, um, phys ed degree, studied phys ed, graduated in December 2017. Right after that, started substitute teaching. Did that for longer than I hoped for, about 2.5 school years. Phys ed's kind of that way.
Hmm.
I don't blame people for not wanting to move out of it. It's a great job. But did most of that at Watkins High School, middle school. Did a little bit in the elementaries. Actually, did 2 weeks at Licking Heights. Got very fortunate. Mr. Tancheski, who you know
Hmm.
most likely.
Yeah, he
Wa-
was my principal my junior and senior year, I believe, or just I don't remember exactly what, but he was my principal for at least a couple of years.
yeah, once I started in, man, he took care of me. Anytime there was an extended placement, long term that he felt I would be successful at, and help the students, he got me in there. So in December 2019, there was kind of a long term opening at the high school, and he got me in there, and thankfully he did at that time because when COVID hit and the schools were closed and it was all virtual, I actually got to stay in that role, and it kept me getting experience, especially during that time when things were kind of a lot different than anything we were used to before. Kept me employed, which was a big help at that time because I mean, other than Amazon warehouses and Lowe's and
Hmm.
something like that, I mean, it was hard to find a job with everyone else closing down or going remote. So I did that until 2020, and then in May 2020, I got hired at my current position, Northridge Elementary physical education teacher. So I teach K through 5 phys ed classes in Northridge School District. So I'll be starting my third school year this year with them. Um, that year, so I got hired in May for teaching. In June, I got in contact with the head football coach. He reached out to me. We came and met one day, kind of just get to know each other, express interest. Before that, it's something that I'd kind of been thinking about, but I never really wanted to just try and push my name into a program, knowing that I had zero experience coaching football before, but love the game, love the sport. I had coached track for 5 years before that, so I had some coaching experience. I've done everything as far as that. I've worked in schools, so I've been around kids of all different skill levels and that kind of thing. So I didn't think it was going to be a huge shock. Just but knowing like you don't really know how much your high school coaches put in time wise
Hmm.
until you kind of get older or you do it yourself. I think in your episode with Sev, he talked about that. And for me, like, like, hey, they met on the weekends and on Sundays and stuff. But until you get into it and you're like 7 days a week for, 3 months and then everything else in the off season, it's like, wow. But it's a grind, but you love it. That's
Hmm.
why you do it. You kind of show up to give the kids their best, right? And that's kind of like teaching and coaching. I think that's where it's like the same. The kids are counting on you, right? You got to stand and deliver every day, whether you're in a classroom, in the gym like myself. If you're coaching, Like you gotta have a plan. You gotta get ready to go because they're counting on you, right? Like they're showing up, they're getting their time in. You got to give it back to them. You have to have a plan. You have to be prepared. You got to be ready to help them out. So I think that's something that kind of helps tie those two together, being organized and being ready to deliver.
Those are two great things: being organized and being ready to deliver. And I think they go hand in hand. Like you can't be ready to deliver if you're not organized. Like that's step one of the process, I think. But kind of going off a few of the things, I wanted to ask, like, or talk to you about too, like you kind of had the thought of coaching. I feel like that's every football, but like every athlete really, like they always have that thought and they're like, yeah, I could get into coaching. Like most of us are like, I could get into it, but like they're not gonna go force themselves on it. It just kind of happen, like they let it come to them almost. And it because I've been the exact same way. And my biggest thing too, I always like we've already talked, like I with work, it's so hard for me right now to, because you said you got to give them your best. And I don't feel like, if you don't feel like you can give your best, you shouldn't do it. Because, and that's my thing, I don't know if I could give the total commitment, the full commitment, and truly feel like I'm benefiting the kids, or like because it's like you got to give up one to do the other. So it's a difficult situation. But that is the big thing, is like you gotta, if you gotta fully commit, and you gotta be organized, you gotta have a plan. And kind of going to you, in order to do that, like even if you have a bad day with teaching, with coaching, you can't let that affect them, because they're not like, I mean, it's different if like, if the kids are being how they're being, but like
Yeah.
you also can't let something from your that affects you from the outside, that they have no control over, they did nothing to do. You can't let that affect them.
Yeah, absolutely. You nailed it on the head. Like I was kind of thinking about that as I was driving down here. Like you can have things in your life that happens, right? It happens to everyone. You lose a loved one, something else didn't happen your way, whatever. You get cut off on your way to work.
Yeah.
You can be upset about it, whatever. But like my students, they're younger, like K through 5. Like I owe it to them, right? Every class they come in, I have 6 classes a day. I got to bring it, right? Some of them, they're counting on me to have their fun for the day or for the week, whatever it is. And you got to kind of put everything else aside 40 minutes at a time. Kind of handle that, and coaching the same way. Luckily coaching, been fortunate with the staffs I've been on, and I forgot to mention this earlier. I just transitioned our head coach at Northridge the last 2 years, has moved up to Mount Vernon. He's taken over that program. So very thankful that he asked me to join him there. My role there is going to be head freshman coach, and still helping out on Friday nights and that kind of thing. But that's my primary role. And then I also forgot to mention I did 5 years of coaching track at Watkins. And then I've done 2 years coaching track so far at Northridge. But yeah, like at coaching, the nice thing there for football is you have your dudes to lean on. And I think that's such a big thing when it comes to a staff, is not just building like great football mind, X's and O's, and that's awesome. It's great to understand that. But when we kind of had a couple open spots this spring leading into summer at Mount Vernon, because it's larger, you have a freshman program. We now have a freshman program at Northridge. So we kind of had some people there that we stayed on staff. Some of us came over from Northridge, but still had some open spots, just a bigger school, bigger program. And when we did our interviews there, it was like, hey, we win with people. I think, was it Woody Hayes who said that?
I believe so.
And it's like, it's a true thing. Are you going to, own your role, whatever it is within the coaching staff? Are you going to be positive for our players? And then like we have a group text going constantly. If you're having whatever's going on in your life, that you have 5, 6, 7 dudes you can reach out to right there.
It's almost like a whole different brotherhood. Like you have that brotherhood, like when you play sports and stuff, and then like in high school and even after college, because everybody goes different paths. Like, yeah, you still have those people that you could call, but like that, it's just, that's what it reminds me of, is that brotherhood of, you can trust this person. Like I need, my car broke down. Who are you going to call? Like
Right.
that kind of thing. Or like, you're just having a bad day and you need to vent to somebody. Like that's the type of brotherhood that I think you get from, I mean, I can't say from experience, but that's what I imagine like with the coaching staff.
Yeah,
Because I mean,
absolutely.
you do spend a lot of time together.
You do, man. It's like we joke, it's like you're married during the season,
Yeah.
right? And those of on the staff who are married, it's like their wives are single during the season, they're married to us kind of thing. But um yeah, it's just so lucky to have those dudes. And the nice thing, like the thing that I love about coaching, I love football and track. Um, but you have that competitiveness, right? You're in that atmosphere, you're in that arena again. Um, and you're with your dudes, right? You're with that, you're all working towards this common goal kind of thing. It's that same camaraderie that you have, and you get to share that with your players.
Yeah.
And that's so rewarding when you grind out a tough win, when you even in practice, you finally see a player get it right, whatever it is. Steps on a down block, finally complete a whole play, all 11 are finally on the same page, whatever it is, you see that come together, man. It's rewarding. And as coaches, I think we celebrate that as well.
Oh, I can remember like Warrington, like going nuts, like yes, yes, yeah.
Yes,
Like it's
absolutely.
like one of those moments, like it finally came together, and he was just like, it was like he was happy it worked, but it's like one of those things that as a coach, I feel like you're more proud of like the players, like you guys are picking up on it, you're figuring it out. And
100%.
I mean, I haven't coached. The only thing I've coached is like 9-year-olds in basketball for 1 year. I did it this past winter, but like it was so cool to watch some of those players like continuously improve, like because this is a lot of their first years. So like some of them had literally no clue what they're
Yep.
doing, and they were just watch them continuously grow each week. Because we only had one practice a week and one game a week, so it's not
Yep.
like they were getting a lot of time. But like some of them, with how quick they picked up, you're like, you're gonna be like, you have the potential to be so good. I wish I had more time with you to work like and just work on things. But watching them grow as athletes, grow as people in general, is just one of the coolest and I think most rewarding things as a coach.
Absolutely. So finished up the track season late May, moved to Mount Vernon, finally got to start being with the football program for everyday workouts in early June. And just from then till now, 7-8 weeks later, seeing some of the players just grow, whether it's weight room. We got 9 camp days in June and July, like we're allowed by the state. And just seeing that growth. I mean, this last week we had 3 camp days and 2 7-on-7 days. We were our first kind of 5-day week. And just from Tuesday 7-on-7 to Thursday 7-on-7, I mean, I saw in my the freshman team big improvements, offense and defense. And I heard the same thing about the kind of upperclassmen, the sophomores through seniors, same thing. And some of that isn't just completing a better pass, running a little bit better route. It's something that in our program that we preach is just doing everything the right way, lining up for warm up, getting out to warm up, breaking the huddle together, like all 11
The
on the
little
same.
things.
It's the little things, and it's something that at first they probably thought we were crazy about,
Yeah.
and we're calling them back. No, break it again. No, break it again. And I think it was last year, Hard Knocks. Was it the Dallas Cowboys? I think
I didn't
last
watch
year
it. I'm not sure who
for
it
the
was last year.
preseason Hard Knocks. I think it was. And Dak Prescott, right? NFL superstar, quarterback. NFL players making millions of dollars, right? And there was a clip of him, little 5-second clip. They broke the huddle. He didn't like it. He brought him back. This is something that I got kind of woke me up when I got to Northridge, because that's a big thing that Coach Campbell believes in. And I know why he does it. I see it. And then to hear Dak Prescott kind of like reiterate that, like, hey, win the pre-snap to win the post-snap. And it's kind of like a really good thing to remember about, like, offense, defense, first down, third down, fourth down, first quarter, fourth quarter, overtime, doesn't matter. Like, be together, be a team, break it together, get up to the line, get ready to go. Kind of that body language thing as a whole there. Just stuff like that, man, just seeing them come along in those things. I mean, it shows, because I think one thing we talked about with them this summer, how you do one thing is how you do all things. Are you a kid in the weight room who skips a set, skips a rep, doesn't push to that maximum effort? In your sprints, are you not actually going and reaching the line before you run back? Are you motoring down before you cross the goal line and warm up? That kind of thing. And that's going to show up. And I know it sounds cliche, but it does show up, in the fourth quarter when it's 4th and goal at the 1 yard line, 2 yard line, and you need this one to win it. Like, who can you have 11 dudes that are going to give you that through the goal line, or are you not?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And that's something that it takes. Like, I don't know, for me, when I was 13, 14, 15, 16, I wasn't thinking about that. You know what I mean? You're in the weight room, you're trying to put up weight, you're trying to look good, you're trying to run fast and all that kind of thing.
But you sit there and you think like, oh, what's one rep? Like,
Right.
But I mean, I can attest to it. There was times like, throughout my college career, mainly that like I started falling off a little bit, and it was like, oh, I'll skip today and, make it up later in the week or something. But then you don't like, and that all starts from skipping one rep. It eventually leads to more. It builds up. You skip one day, then you skip 2 days, then you don't go at all for the entire week, and then you're just completely behind. Then the season comes and you're wondering why you're the one sitting on the bench while someone else is starting over you. It has to do with the little things, and it all could start from just skipping one rep.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it can snowball like that. And that's tough because time is something you cannot get back.
No
matter how hard you try, you cannot get it back. And you can try and squeeze, like you said, make up later, but it's just not the same, right?
You can't get it back, and you'll never have enough of it. So
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to just own it now. And that's a big thing, because I've, like myself with my own personal workouts, it's like easy on a Saturday. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, or Sunday, whatever. I'm gonna go home and chill out, and it's like, come on, man, get up.
Well,
Like,
it's like one of those that you also start to look at, like, how can I ask somebody, like my players, to do something that I can't even do?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you got to own it. You got to own it. And coaches, like, we always tell our players, be on time, be early. If we have a meeting at 7 before practice, don't show up at 6:58.
Yeah.
If you got a helmet issue, you got equipment issue, whatever, don't show up 5 minutes before practice, 10 minutes. Get that taken care of way before. Before,
When we were in college, we had a window, like one of those like concession stand type windows in our locker room, and it would close, like they'd close it 10 minutes before practice. So if you weren't early,
right,
your helmet wasn't getting fixed, and you had to wait until after practice to fix it or whatever it was. Like, and it was just the point that they always did. They were like, you know what, if you don't show up early enough, it's
right.
different. Like, they give some people some slack via class or something, but like that window, they'd close it, and you didn't have a choice. Like, you should have got here earlier.
Yeah. So like that, we asked them to be early, so we got to be early, right? We want to show up to practice. We want the players to go out to practice with warm-up setup, field setup for whatever's next, tackling stations, ND, defense, NDO, special teams, whatever it is. And that's that part of, like we mentioned earlier, having a plan and delivering, right? Being prepared for your players, it's going to help your practice go smoother. Being prepared for your class, if you're a teacher or whatever you're doing, is going to help that go smoother, right? Knowing what you have in place and rolling there. So yeah, like you said, asking your players to do something, and then you have to do it yourself. We got to show up early. We got to be ready to go when practice starts. It's not, hey, I'm rubbing my eyes. It's Saturday morning. We just had a Friday night game. Hour and a half bus ride. Now we have a JV game this morning, freshman game, whatever it is. Like, as a coach, you owe it to them. Like, they worked all week, those JV players, those freshman players, whoever it is playing on Saturday, to come out. This is their chance to play.
Yeah.
This is their chance to compete and try to win. As a coach, you need to, I don't care if you got, 1 hour, 2 hours of sleep, whatever, you got an empty stomach, you're thirsty, whatever, everything else, your head hurts. Like, those players work their tails off all week, all season for that next game. You got to be ready. You got to wake up. You got to be ready to go with them.
Well, that thing too is like, as a coach, if you do this type of stuff, what kind of culture do you want to create? Because that's what essentially starts creating the culture and then you can start see the upperclassmen start picking up on that, and it all trickles down. It's like a pyramid. It just all trickles down to the very last guy, and it's the very cliche saying: you're only as strong as your weakest link. So if you're not, if the coach is the weakest link, you got a big problem. Like,
Yeah.
but so if the coach is like, trying to like just leading by example essentially, then it's just going to continue to grow the team as a whole. People are going to pick up on that. People pay attention to that because they might not realize it now that they're paying as much attention, because like when I was in high school, I didn't realize how much attention I paid to Sev and Warrington, like the
Yeah.
stuff they did. And then like post college and stuff, I'm like looking back, like things happen in life and you're like, man, I remember oh wow, I really did pay attention to everything, like every little move they made and everything like that. You pay attention to those type of things. You look up to those type of people, and that's the other thing, is you never know who's watching. Like you never know who's going to notice when you're not there, like you're a couple minutes late or whatever. Somebody's always going to be watching.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been very fortunate with the coaches I've been around. Sev, he's a mentor to me. He, coach, has taught for many years, taught phys ed. So I've been able to, like in college, I had a project where it was, hey, go shadow someone in the job you want to do. And he let me come in, shadow him for a day, drill him with a list of questions and that kind of thing. We've always been in touch since then. And then in track, Marty Dahlman.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you knew Coach Watkins at all.
Yep. He coached me 7th grade basketball and with my brothers. So yeah, that was actually one of the things I had on my list to talk to you about a little bit.
Yeah, if you don't mind, we can start talking about it now.
Yeah, that's fine. That's definitely worth.
Yeah, so Coach Watkins and I spent pretty much as much time as we probably could together in high school between football. I played football, I did track all 4 years for both, and then I took both of his classes in the school. So, I mean, we were together as much as probably anyone. And unfortunately, he passed away the day I graduated high school. That was kind of the news I woke up to that day. And I just actually had saw him the night before at a grad party for a couple of my friends, teammates on the track team. So that was a very difficult, strange kind of time because I was graduating high school, was actually still competing in track. We just had our district competition.
Yeah, because he was the shot and discus coach.
Yeah, shot and discus coach. So I was with him for 4 years for that. We just had district competition. So I had moved on to regional competition. But I didn't have a coach.
Yeah.
He passed away. All the other coaches came in, and also in that time, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Phipps. I don't know if you know Kevin at all. He actually came down. Their track season was over at VW, and he actually volunteered his time and came down and worked with me during that time leading up to regionals. Unfortunately, did not qualify for the state meet in discus that following Wednesday. But that next Friday, I actually got 4th place in shot put and qualified for the state meet, which was just a big goal of mine. Another goal of mine that season was to break the shot record. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but the shot record is still held by Coach Watkins. And the only reason I bring that up is because with his funeral and that kind of thing, we went and he had a lot of guys he coached with in the past and played with, and then he actually did a little student teaching and I think coaching down in Kentucky. And I think some of the members of that staff came up, and they actually came up and talked to me. And those guys I've never met before, never heard Coach talk about them, and they actually said like, "Hey, Charlie told us about you a lot." And it's one of those things where it just hit me, and it's like, dang, man, like I was so fortunate to have a great coach that cared about me, helped me out, and actually wanted me to break his record, right? Like he wanted that more than I maybe even wanted that, and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And he was that way, and like, it was he's a tough love guy.
I think that's why I loved him so much. That was one of because like that's kind of like how I respond. I best to is like, and I remember him in basketball, like he like when he'd get angry, it was because he like you saw like he wanted you to succeed.
Yes.
It wasn't like he was mad that you weren't figuring it out. He wanted you to succeed. He wanted you to improve. He wanted to see success, and that's one of the best, like the things that I remember the most about him.
Yeah. So I had a lot of respect for him and all my coaches to begin with, but I had a little bit of a head case at sometimes with track. Just it sometimes felt like you're on an island.
Hmm.
It's a team sport, but individual performances
Yeah.
sometimes. My sophomore year, I was in a county all-star meet for discus. Had a terrible day, finished eighth out of eight throwers. Was not wanting to talk to anyone. Just wanted to like just go home, be done with it,
Hmm.
like whatever. And so I was frustrated. I grabbed my stuff, started walking away, and he said, "Nick," and I was just like stopped, and he said, "Come here." And I hadn't talked to him that much during competition because I was like in my own head, didn't have a good day, whatever. And he stared me in the eye and grilled me for about 1 or 2 minutes straight about like, "Hey, I am your coach. I'm here to help you. Like, you got to trust me," kind of deal. And like at the moment, I was like actually like frightened. He's a big guy, but it's like it took me a second to reflect and be like, I respect the heck out of him for doing that
Hmm.
because, like you said, that's kind of what I needed to respond to.
Yeah.
Because I needed that, like, hey, look at me,
Hmm.
kind of deal. So that's something that um, was a big thing with him. That kind of from then on, I don't think we had really any other times where it was like, hey, this is my coach, like he's got me. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And that's a big thing in all areas, not just track and field, not just football, but any sport or athletics you do. You got to trust your coach, right? Um, and I was very thankful for him and his family, especially his family during that time. They invited me to speak at his candlelight vigil. Um, and I'm not a public speaker, especially at 18 years old.
I
But
don't know if anybody really is. Everybody's always frightened to speak at it. But I still, to like the podcast definitely helps, but it's still there's times where like if I have to speak in front of a bunch of people, I'm just like, okay, here we go.
yeah, but I was very thankful. Some people asked me about it after, and I said it was a very challenging thing to do, knowing the nature of what was happening,
Mhm.
but also very, I think, easy for me to. I put it down on paper first, so I could read it because there was things that I just really wanted to include, and it wasn't super long, but it was just like, hey, this is what Coach Watkins means to me. We got to share fun times together. He could be goofy at practice or whatever. And I don't know if you guys played senior versus staff basketball game.
I I didn't actually play, but we did.
So we had that, and he was in the game. And of course, I'm like, I got to coach. I got to coach. The dude like posted me up, scored, took one on the baseline right over my head, scored. I'm like, gee whiz, man, like take it easy on me. I didn't know you had that in you, kind of thing. So just stuff like that, and um, it's those kind of coaches, those kinds of people, those kinds of teachers, whatever it is, that make a big impact. And sometimes, like I said myself, I didn't even realize at the time how big or how much he cared and loved me, because he would definitely express that like he wanted the best for me, he wanted me to perform great. But it wasn't until unfortunately after he passed where it was people in his family or other coaches or just other people that said like, hey, he talked about you a lot. He wanted, he wants the best for you and what you do and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, wow, like at 17 years old, you're not thinking about
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, unfortunately, sometimes all you can think about with your coaches is like, hey, he grilled me today on this. He chewed me
Mhm.
out for this, because you kind of stick to that negative when in fact it's like, hey, they're doing their job because they want that best for you and that's how they got to get it across. Um, so it's just sad to think that that's how that all happened. I love them. I still miss them. I have his initials tattooed on my chest right here. He means that much to me. He helped kind of shape um, where I went, and he's not the only one, but he's one of them. Um, and with that, right after he passed away, there was an opening on the coaching staff for coaching boys shot put and discus at Watkins, and I was started at OSU Newark before I went to main campus, and because I was close enough, and Coach Dahlman actually brought me in that next spring and talked to me and said, "Hey, I'd like for you to get involved with this. I know you can't be here probably every day because of classes you're taking and finals, but give us what you can. I want you to be involved with this. I want you to be here." And I was not a great coach that first couple years. I tried to
I
take.
want to stop real quick.
Yeah.
That I love. Most people I feel like won't even admit it. Like you have okay. Like most people I feel like won't even admit that. Like, and you're not going to be a good coach. And that's the whole point. It's like, look at the first time you played football. Look at the first time you
Yeah.
threw. Were you good at it? No, you have to learn. And everything is a learning experience. You have to continue to learn through everything that you do. That is what I loved right there is like just the fact that you accept, like, I wasn't good at it at first. That is the biggest thing. You have to understand that you're not going to be perfect at everything that you do when you first start, but then it's your choice. You can either get better at it or, you know what, just be like, almost give up essentially.
Yeah, for sure. And that goes with your jobs too, right? If you have a job where maybe you're, in a trade school for it, maybe you're going to college for it or whatever, and for teaching, right? You get all this field experience, you get student teaching, you get all this and that. And I know for myself, when you get into the school, it might be a little different.
Mhm.
It might be a little different school culture than what you student taught at, might be a different area of the state. Maybe you're in a different state. I don't know.
Mhm.
But you got to learn and going, like I said, going back to that coaching, I started out when Coach Dahlman brought me on, I was not a very good coach. I knew what I knew from my throwing, but here I am coaching some kids who were just my teammates 11 months ago.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of differentiate that, you kind of switch there, which isn't always easy to
No,
do.
because I mean, I had my roommate in college. He um, dealt with injuries like where he every time he'd try and play, like he'd have something crazy happen to where he never really got to play much. But then he took on like a student coaching role his senior year, and he was my roommate that year. The next year, he came back as like a grad assistant.
Yeah.
Basically, is what they call it. I don't really. It's not technically a grad assistant, but it's the same idea. And like that's what he was, and it was hard because like a year ago we went from living together and
Right.
basically acting like brothers, giving each other crap all the time, to where we now have to, both of us have to differentiate this. We're no longer player like best friend type thing. There's now where I have a coach player relationship we got to have, because I'll never forget the first time that I kind of realized like I have to almost check myself, is like I was like messing with him. We were in the weight room messing around. I was like, you know what, Teddy, shut the hell up. And I remember one of the freshmen, it was like when we first got on campus, one of the freshmen being like, because like I just said that to a coach, like,
Right.
and they were like, what? And I was like, I looked at him and was like, all right, yeah, now I know why I have to have this player coach relationship.
Right.
But it's hard to differentiate that sometimes when, like you said, like 11 months ago you were teammates and now you're a coach.
Yeah. So jumping into that, thankfully, had great support from Dahlman and the other coaches to help me out. Knowing I couldn't be there that day, and they picked up my slack when I couldn't be because of school. And just honestly, like the throwers, like, hey, you didn't have the same coach you had a year ago. You have a coach who's being there as much as they can, but they're not a great coach yet. They're just starting out. And like, they just had to grow through that as well.
Today's episode is brought to you by roughneckspodcast.com. If you want to support the podcast, then head over to roughneckspodcast.com and grab you some of that Roughnecks merch. We have everything from t-shirts, long sleeves, sweatshirts, hats, and many more. Stay up to date on the website for new merch coming every couple months. You can place an order and it'll get sent directly to your door, and I don't even take any of the money from it. The money gets put right back into the podcast to continue to improve it for you. If you can't afford to buy some merch this time, then simply just subscribe to the newsletter, and it'll keep you up to date on all the new things that are coming. I appreciate all of the support you guys give. It doesn't go unnoticed. Let's get back to today's episode.
So thankfully, I got that experience. So I got to do 3 years while I was in college. When I was student teaching, I was unable to do it because of my placements. That just time just didn't work out. But when I graduated college and got back into subbing, I was able to get back into it. Sev brought me back on the middle school staff right away. I'm very thankful for him for doing that, and was up at the high school staff, and then COVID hit and wiped out that season, unfortunately. But very thankful for that, because that kind of jump started not just coaching track, but the desire to coach outside of teaching, which I think definitely helped me moving into football and coaching that as well. Like just the aspect of owning it, hey, I just taught for whatever 7 hours. I have a 2-3 hour practice after this. Like it's not time for me to motor down.
Yeah.
For me, especially football, man, it's time for me to motor up.
Yeah.
I'm going from teaching kindergarten through fifth, which I love.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Is it hard sometimes to go from teaching like real younger kids to high school? I mean, I know there's still younger high school kids, but still high school kids.
Yeah, it's just different. I just kind of in my mind like section out the day. It's like as I previously had just walked out after teaching and got to walk out to football practice at Northridge. And it was just like on my little 2-minute walk, flip the switch, right? Like I got my practice plan in hand, so I know what's coming. And it's just like, boom, dive right into it. But I like it, man. I love it. I really do love teaching in the gym. The younger kids bring out the best of me. They laugh and smile, and it's pretty cool. Like when you open up the door and they walk in, and whatever activity game you have set up for them, right? Their eyes light up, and so it's fun. I get to be like, I have the biggest room in the building, right? So I still get to be loud, but in a different way. I'm a little bit different loud than I am at football practice. Yeah. But I get to be excitable, right? I get to play into that role and that kind of thing.
Like,
so
we remember what it was like when we were in elementary school. Gym class was like,
I mean,
not for everybody, but like for a lot of people, like they looked forward to it. And like, honestly, that might be the only exercise some of those kids get that entire day. That week. Like, so it is, you're doing, like, it's not just people. Sometimes I feel like wonder, like, why do we even have gym class? Why do we have art class? Why do we have music? And that was the same thing. Like, why do we though? There is a point like that could be the only exercise they get. That could be the only time, or that's where they could find their creativity in this or that. Like, it's very important.
Yeah. So obviously I'm going to fight for it as much as I can. Not just at elementary, but also at middle and high school. Right. I think the overall goal, because you're not going to get physically fit one day a week for 40 minutes, right? 30 minutes, 40 minutes, but find something you enjoy as a physical activity, right? Hopefully in middle school and high school, they're finding stuff other than, as much as I love football and basketball and track and all that, like team sports, you don't play team sports as much when you get out of high school, out of college, in your 30s, 40s, 50s, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think the overall goal is to find something or a few things that you will want to do for the rest of your life to stay active. For me, thankfully, I love weightlifting. I will do it as much as my body will let me, I guess, until the body says like, we can't do this anymore. And thankfully with my job and coaching, I'm on my feet a lot. So I'm moving around. I'm not just sitting down. So I'm very fortunate for that. But yeah,
the thing is too, it doesn't even have to be anything crazy. Like you don't have to go, do a 2-hour workout in the gym.
Right.
You could literally go for a walk down the street, and that'd be good.
Get
like,
up and moving, and
go golfing, because
yeah,
like, especially if you're older. What a lot of older guys like to do, like to go
yeah,
golfing when they retire. So like that right there, even if you don't walk the course, you still got to walk a little bit, like and you use the
right.
cart, but like you're still getting exercise. You're still outside. The big thing too, I think it's very important to try and do something outside. I don't know if you're familiar with 75 hard.
I am not.
Andy Frisilla at First Form, and he has this 75 hard challenge. There's pros and cons to it. I've never done it, but I know people that do it. But one of his, it's like a workout thing, and it's like on a diet, your own diet, but read 10 pages a day, drink a gallon of water, no alcohol. Like it's just, and it's 75 days of what this. And one of the things is you have to do 2 workouts a day, but one of those workouts has to be outside. It doesn't matter if it's 10 degrees outside or what it is. Like you have to do one workout outside. And I look at that as something that I love about it, because I think it's very important to get outside and do something every day, whether it's a 5-minute walk or, a 2-hour, whatever you do. It's very important to get outside, because I mean, look at in the winter, seasonal depression, like
It's
people
tough.
struggle in the winter because of the fact that they're trapped inside. They can't be outside as much.
Yeah, and I'm probably speaking for almost every teacher out there, at least in the northern Midwest, whatever, where you get that cold weather, that snow. The students, and they don't know, especially the younger ones, they don't realize what, like, it's that cabin fever kind of thing where they're stuck inside for 3-4 months, and you have to have indoor recess because it's too cold to go outside and that kind of thing. And it's like, so that's times where it's like the only times they're moving around is that one day a week with me. And it's like, and I realize that, and I'm like, all right, I need to shut up. I need to, whatever activity game I'm doing, I need to make my instruction very short. I need to get them moving. I need to turn the music on and let's go, right? Let's go, let's sweat, let's move, get them exhausted so that the time their teacher picks them up, all they want is a drink, a snack, and maybe a nap or something. So, yeah. And like you said, that doesn't just stop when you're in high school. Like, I think it's huge to get outside and move or whatever. Thankfully, I started golfing. I'm terrible. But it's
no,
so
you will be terrible for a while. I'm telling you. Like,
yeah.
It's like I think I started when I was either like a senior in high school or like a freshman in college, and that's when I first got into it. And like people, you look at it, you're like, it can't be that hard. Like you just hit the golf ball, and then you hit it, and it goes, 300 yards right, and you're like, what just happened?
Right. Or mine, where you like almost completely miss it, and you dribble it up like 30 yards, and you're like, all right, bring the cart up to me. I got to walk to that, But it, like, you do it, and you're like, the best part about it, whether you're good or bad, I think, you get to be outside. Hopefully you get to go with friends.
Yeah.
There's 4 or 5 hours if you're playing 18 where you just kind of get away, and that's what I enjoy about it. Thankfully, started up that summer. Some other coaches play. I got friends that play. And it's just like, hey, because in the summertime, we have our football stuff, but it's mostly in the mornings. And I'm very thankful to have that time to myself to do other things, right? Because you can't golf, I can't golf in December or January when I'm not coaching, that kind of thing.
I mean, unless you go down south, but
right.
Still.
It might be worth it, yeah. But yeah, just that kind of thing where you're out, get some sunlight, get some fresh air, go do something physical, but not where it's going to kill you. Yeah. And then next thing you know, 4 or 5 hours later, I'm ready to go home and take a nap. Yeah. And it's just like, hey, I feel it, but it's good. It's that kind of thing. Like you said, just finding something, keep moving. Like I'll say this, and it's just like, for me, for myself, I feel like whenever I stop moving is when I feel like I'm going to start dying, and that's something I don't want. So I'm still trying to find things like, hey, this isn't super high impact, so it's not going to hurt my body, but I can do it. I love weightlifting, still get to do that now. Very thankful for that. And just kind of keeping the body moving, because it's so important when I don't know, just you don't want to lose your health. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's something that hopefully you don't lose it and can't get it back. So like above any message I say today, keep moving.
I mean, we got a lady that actually walks right here. I see her, pretty much every day, every evening she's walking. and she's on the phone. And that's another thing that I look at. I'm like, I don't know if she's talking to her mom,
Right.
like who she's exactly talking to, but she's on the phone every day, and she's walking. And she walks a lot.
Yeah.
Because I've seen her like all the way down at like 21st. Like she walks.
She goes, yeah.
Or I guess, yeah. But she walks a lot, but I'm also looking at that like that also could be a time where, and then you kind of forget what you're like. It's no longer a workout. You're find somebody to call and just go start walk the neighborhood, whatever it is, and it's not hard. I think people think sometimes like they have to get fit, they have to go to the gym and pay for a gym membership, and a trainer, or work out 6 days a week and do these hour-long. No, it doesn't have to be that complex. I mean, I don't know if you know who Zach Muncy is.
Yeah.
Have you seen kind of his story?
Yeah.
Like I don't know him very well, but like I've seen like it all started with COVID when he literally would just walk laps, and he was very overweight, but he would just walk laps around his living room, and then all of a sudden he's lost this ridiculous amount of weight, and that's where it started from, was taking laps around your living room. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It's just something simple. Get moving, move.
Yeah, keep moving, get moving, keep moving. Yeah, with Zach, I was very fortunate. Those first couple years where I was coaching, he did throw a little bit, and something with him, man, he was just always so cheery, always so happy, and like he was always a pleasure to be around at practice. So I'm Facebook friends with him, so I've been able to see that from afar. And I don't know if he listens to this or not.
I don't know.
But if he does, man, keep it up.
Yeah.
Like, you are inspiring a lot of people in different ways. I actually had a coach I coached with previously at Northridge, who lived kind of near him, I guess, and saw him walking around and like found out like his story and he's like, wow. And it's just like people are noticing that. And Zach, if you are listening to this, man, keep it up. Like, you're doing a great job.
I wanted to, a couple kind of this or that questions, but I wanted reasonings too. If you do you prefer coaching track or football? I know they both have their pros and cons, because you also have a special place in your heart for both of them. So which one would you, if you had to pick one?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one, man. Because I have more experience coaching track. I feel like at this point I'm better at coaching track. Personally, I feel, not that I definitely have grown a lot as a football coach over the last 2 seasons.
But could that come just mainly from experience too?
Right. Yes. So that's a tough one. Because I have a great rapport with the coaches I coach with track as well. It's just a little bit different because it's you're not spending as much time together. Man, gosh, you're gonna hit me with this one. This might be the toughest question, because I feel like football might be the one that, if I had to choose, because I love track. I think as an athlete, I was a better track athlete. I've done more. But I think it's that full competition arena. You get that with track. It's just on a lesser scale, because it's individual most of the time. But the relationships I've been able to build in a very, very short time coaching football, and that coaching staff camaraderie, I think is just a little bit different in the fact that, like, I don't want to give that up. I love that. Been very fortunate with Coach Campbell and the other coaches for that. So I guess if you made me pick, I would say football.
Yeah.
And maybe it's, the other thing is just more athletes, more players. Not that, again, track, nothing against it. I love it. I really do. I really do love it. And I love my throwers, even though there's, a handful of them compared to like a full football team.
There's always, I think, a special place in someone's heart for like any football athlete. Like, there's something special about
I love the sport, man.
I feel like it is, and people might disagree with me, and that's fine, but I feel like it is the most, like, the sport that brings people together the most.
And I'll say it, it's the greatest team sport ever.
Yes, I agree.
It's 11, so it's big. It's people of different sizes, different abilities, different agilities, speeds, that thing. Like, you have different roles for no matter who it is.
Yeah, not even that too, going even further off of that, like in college, like we all had different backgrounds.
Yeah,
Everybody grew up different,
right.
completely different. A lot of it. Like we had people from freaking Compton,
Yeah,
like legit Compton, like and like some of the stuff that they'd say, and it's like it puts you in a perspective, but then like also like those are like brothers to me, and
yeah,
they always will be. Like it's crazy what a sport can do, not only for the people that are playing, but for the people that are watching. You see it. How many people go watch a football game in a stadium? Like
right,
how many people are watching at home? Like how
right.
many Super Bowl parties? What
Yeah,
like it's like it brings people together. It like it gives you that sense of togetherness.
yeah. And even you mentioned college, but even in high school programs, right? They all might live in the same city, town, area, but there is still a lot of different diversities there. Not just racial but also like socioeconomical
Yeah.
and different family structures and that kind of thing, where you might not know that, right? Like, you might not know that about your teammate, your brother, unless you're super tight with them and you go hang out at their house or vice versa. But there is still, like, even within high school programs, there's a lot of differences among players. And the cool thing is just like, you don't even recognize it, right? When you get into a program that has a strong culture, that stuff does not matter as far as like being a teammate, being part of the program, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you come from a family that's well off. It does not matter if you come from a family that's unfortunately struggling, and it's kind of money's tight and that kind of thing. Like, just watching those players in practice at games, kind of like, that's all thrown aside.
Yep.
Like, hey, we grinded together, right? We put in this work together, and then see that all kind of happen, where those other differences, like maybe within the school building, right? You've been in high school.
Yep.
Like, Watkins is a fairly large high school where you get a lot of that as well, different sort of diversities there. And sometimes, like, you see that your classmates who can't handle those differences, and that's unfortunate, right? So I think that, like, being in schools and seeing, unfortunately, those students who can't, for whatever reason, get over that,
Yeah.
which is very sad to see, but then seeing it in your programs, like, hey, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, you're my brother. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, hey, reach out if you need help. Like, call me if you need help. We're going to throw all that stuff aside, right? Like, right now we're about to go get in a 3-point stance and get after it, kind of thing. So, yeah, I think football is, like I said, greatest team sport ever because of those things. Like, I'm a big college football fan. I love Ohio State. I went to Ohio State. Become a bigger NFL fan the last couple of years.
Really? I've never been able to really get into the NFL, but I mean, I don't mind watching it. I don't have like a team that I'm like.
Me either.
I love to watch.
I don't have a team. I don't set aside time as much. Like, I'll go to the gym on Sundays and they have TV, so like I'll peek over, like, hey. But for
If it's
me,
a Buckeye game though, that's
right,
completely
yeah,
different,
for a
like-
Buckeye game, forget about it, right? I get back from, like, in the last couple of years, a JV game on Saturdays. This year, a freshman, we have, I think, 6 of our 9 games are on Saturdays, and it's like, hey, get back, get home, like, boom, college football for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
I love college football. But yeah, NFL, I've just appreciated it more. I guess maybe as a coach, maybe that's what's kind of done it for me, is like, I'm more offensive minded. That's kind of been my role, offensive assistant. I've dabbled in some special teams, which I really actually enjoy. But when you see like the Kansas City Chiefs and some of the stuff they draw up, like not saying like, hey, I'm stealing that, but just like appreciating it,
Yeah.
right? Like, you have all these superstar players. Like, how do you utilize them the best? I think that kind of thing. And also, I, in high school, got to play one game against Joe Burrow. My senior year.
I don't think it was much of a game, but it's hard to have. There's the lady I was just talking about.
See, she's after it.
Every day. She
Yeah.
walks. But yeah, like Joe Burrow was also on a different level than
Oh.
pretty much anybody he played.
Yeah,
so-
and I played against him when he was only a sophomore,
Yeah.
and it was a track meet game. I had never cramped up so bad in a game. It was hot. It was like week 2 of the season.
Yeah, I was gonna say we usually played them week 2.
Yeah, and it was like a 64 or 62, 50 something. Like it ended up being like an 8-point
I
game
think
at
that
the
one
end.
wasn't that the only like game that was, because then the next 2 years I think we played them.
Yeah, I think you guys went down there, didn't you?
Well, I never played again. I never did, because he was
Oh, he was a couple years older, wasn't
he
he?
graduated when I was a freshman, I believe.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly. I can't remember. Yeah, he had to have graduated when I was a freshman, because I mean I just graduated college in 2021. Yeah, but either way, so I never actually played against him, but I remember seeing him play when we lost like 50 something to 3 when we went there and played.
Yeah, he's a different kind of cat, man. And there was also some other great players on that team, but yeah, seeing him as a sophomore, and he had like, I don't know how many total touchdowns he had, like 5 throwing, 2 rushing, and he was like, 15-year-old baby-faced kid. Fast forward all these years, right? He's Mr. Ohio. He goes to Ohio State. Things worked out the way they did there, and then
If you don't know the Joe Burrow story,
right, yeah, and then and so I bring all that up just to say, like last year when the Bengals went on their run, I was kind of like, all right, I'm an Ohio guy, like I love Ohio. Joe Burrow's an Ohio guy.
Yeah.
He's leading the Bengals, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna root for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of like dive into that and watch them play. Like, man, that was pretty cool. So,
well, it's also you sit there and you look at, like, I played against somebody that was
Right.
Made a very big run last year and won the Heisman, and
he
has
won
done
the
all these
Heisman, won the
things.
national championship. Yeah.
Like it's like holy crap. Like when you look at it in that sense, it's like wow. Like because I remember the first time, I don't remember. I think I was watching a college basketball game, and I saw they said the name, and I was like, I literally guarded him in high
Right.
school. Like what? And I'm watching them on TV, like
Yeah.
while I'm sitting on the couch. But
Yeah, there was-
like it's crazy. Especially the talent in Ohio, and especially at Central Ohio,
Ohio,
is
yeah.
very. There is a lot of talent around here.
Yeah, in track and field, I went to the state meet my senior year, and in that state meet was Billy Price.
Oh, really?
So he went to Ohio State, played on that national championship
Uh-huh.
team, was a first round pick of the Bengals when he went to the NFL, and he's still in the NFL, I think, with the Giants now. And it's just like, and that dude, like, I think he finished second at both events in that track meet, the state track meet. I watched a video of him, like, as an 18-year-old high school senior, power clean like 405, and I'm like, what? Like that. What do people say now? Hashtag built different.
Yeah.
Like that's built different.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, man, Ohio has a lot of great athletes, and Central Ohio, like especially, and we see it not only in football, but also in track. I mean, we go to these regional meets where it's like Central Ohio region, and you see these dudes and the girls, I mean, jumping and scooting and running and like all that, and you're like, dang, man, like it's not an easy state.
No.
Like I don't think sometimes people give Ohio the credit for its athletics, man. It is, I think it's like number 5 state in high school football recruiting, and track and field, man, they got some dogs.
It was always fun to, in college, we'd always all mess with each other because we had some kids from Georgia, we had some kids from Florida, we had some kids from Texas, and all of them, of course, like,
Right.
oh, our state's the best state when it comes to
Right.
football or high school football, which, I mean, I've never actually seen like Texas, that their stadiums and everything's are on a complete
wild.
different level.
Yeah.
But like I've never seen any of those games, so like I have nothing to actually compare to. But it was always fun to mess with that. But kind of another one I wanted to ask you though is shot or disc?
Kind of crazy. So I started out just doing discus. Should have done it my 7th grade year. I was an idiot, and it's like I was playing basketball in middle school. So my 7th grade year, I just didn't want to do any other sport in the spring. I wanted to get ready for football because I didn't start playing football until 7th grade. Basketball was like my first love when I was a little kid. I was taller than most, at least at the start. Then everyone kind of passed me up. But so in 8th grade, started discus and actually was doing some sprinting still. Got into high school, picked up a shot my freshman year, didn't do it a lot. And then as time went on, I ended up making the state meet and shot put. I love them both. There is something about watching a discus fly really freaking far, though, that it's just kind of like poetry, man. So I guess if I had to choose, I would actually probably choose discus because I started there.
Which is harder?
It's
Or
tough,
is it
man.
a personal preference?
It's personal preference, maybe.
Because I mean, I've never thrown either of them,
Yeah.
so I don't really know.
So I'll say it this way: in shot put, you're throwing it much shorter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your improvement might not feel like improvement. So 6 inches in shot put, that's a big improvement.
Yeah.
Right. That's almost like 3 or 4 feet in discus. So it might not feel like you're improving as much when you are. So that might be like a little bit like tough on you.
Yeah.
Discus, I think overall might have a little bit more components just with the grip and the release. There is a grip and release in shot put, but I think it's a little bit less because it's on your neck.
Yeah.
It doesn't have its own orbit.
Yeah.
In discus, you're holding it out with a long straight arm, and it has its own orbit, and that can kind of help or hurt your throw.
Yeah.
And it's a bigger ring. It's a foot longer across, so there's a little bit more ground you have to cover. But shot put, I mean, it's for high school boys, it's 12 pounds. So there's that aspect of it. I would say overall, I think your separators between your top discus guys maybe be a little bit more, I think. I don't know. I'm going to put it that way. I think both are very challenging when you get to the top end. I think your technique in both are number one. Because I don't think I was weak in high school. I know I wasn't the strongest dude around.
Mm-hmm.
But thankfully for me, I was able to just move, transfer, like make that and create power through acceleration rather than just because it's great to be strong. I'm never going to say it's not great to be a strong thing, but if you can't apply it, if you can't move, it doesn't matter in those sports. So it's pretty cool to see that now as a coach, to see like kids come out that are like 6'2" and they might not be able to bench 200 pounds, right? But they are so quick and explosive, like maybe they're a basketball player or volleyball player or something like that. Basketball, volleyball, I think are awesome helpers as far as like short area quickness. That really translates well to throwing. Football as well. Obviously, I'm gonna champion that as much as I can, but yeah, seeing kids come out that oh man, they're tall and skinny, but even in shot put, man, if you can get the leverage on and if you can get the quickness and transfer that acceleration into power, man, you're going to be in good shape. And so that's really cool to see when it finally starts clicking. I think we mentioned that about like football earlier, but track and field, especially your field events, especially, for throwing, what I'm used to, like seeing them in that season, like this is where I had to get better as a coach. For each, you have to it's almost like writing their own prescription practice plan for each individual kid, because I'm thankful to have so many throwers, but each of them might need something different.
Yeah.
For that, this is a freshman, they're starting out, they're not rotating very much. They're not doing a glide or whatever it is. They got to get everything else right. They got to get their foundations right first. Not then on the flip side, I have a senior who's been to regionals, right? Their next step is trying to add a little bit more and try and fight for a spot to make the state meet, where they're 3 years advanced compared to that freshman. So I got to give them the right feedback, them the right practice plan, or whatever it is that day. And then it might switch week to week, as kids come along. And I think for me, myself, I love the challenge of that. Because I am on the high school staff, the only one who coaches throws, and I like to own that. That's where I take pride in, like, hey, I need to be great. I need to be on it. I need to deliver for these 20 high school throwers each and every day. because that track season is a lot shorter than it feels. And unfortunately, in 2020 there was no season.
Yeah.
In 2021 there were some cancellations along the way. Um, so there are opportunities to compete. You have juniors and seniors who haven't even had that many full seasons. So, so I guess long-winded answer there. They're both very difficult to try to get into the top end, but I would think discus just a little bit more, just because of the distances that you can have a great throw, man, and then I watched the state meet at discus and just seeing a kid pop one out almost 200 feet, and it's
Yeah.
like, holy moly. So
It's just crazy when you look at what sports can, like, we've been sitting here for over an hour talking pretty much just sports, and it's what sports in general can bring, like, not even just football, but sports in general can bring people together. And I just love sports so freaking much. It's awesome.
I do, man. I do too. I love it. That was when I graduated high school. I knew I wanted to stay involved with athletics somehow. And I actually started at OSU in athletic training because I was like, okay, I'll still be near it. And I actually went through a whole year of like prereqs and stuff for that. And then just like got that chance to coach that next spring with track at Watkins, and was like, man, I want to keep doing this. And it's like what goes hand in hand with coaching, teaching, and it's not the only one. We have coaches on staff at Mount Vernon that are like project managers for construction. So thankfully it works out for them, and some other roles, other occupations as well, that works out. But for me, like I got experience in my grandfather's church at a young age to help kind of lead little things, like maybe lead some of the youth stuff in the back a little bit, not a ton. But with that and my aunt being a second grade teacher for many years, kind of being exposed to that as well, I think teaching and education just kind of fit. So that summer, as I was getting ready to go to Columbus campus, I made the switch. OSU has a phys ed program, and I got in touch with the advisors and said like, hey, this is what I want to do. I need to switch my schedule. I had to play a little catch up. That's why I had one extra semester and graduated in December. But it's totally worth it. I mean, it's kind of worked out to where like, hey, I'm doing the things I love to do. I'm teaching, which I love. I'm coaching the two sports that I played, and I'm coaching them at a high school level. Like, what else could I ask for, And yeah, like you said, man, sports brings people together in like a different way. Like, I think there's like, especially Central Ohio, we're spoiled. Ohio State fans, I guess, are spoiled. Like, there are people that go to Ohio State parties, game watch parties that don't even really care about football that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's
some
like,
of them have never played football in their entire lives, like never were a part of a football team, and they still spend every Saturday or whatever watching college football, or even on Sundays, whatever it is.
Yeah, going to those parties because they know whoever they're hanging out with. It's like, it's a fun time. Like, Ohio State doesn't lose that much, thankfully. But even when they do, yeah, right.
This can't be the year.
Yeah, but even like if they do, it's like, hey, man, like you just got to hang out with, like, you got to share that time together with your friends. So yeah, man, like you said, love athletics and all, not just football, not just track, not just basketball, but like, hey, if I'm gonna sit here and say like keep moving, like any sport, any athletics that you're into, man, badminton, I don't care.
Yeah.
Keep moving, enjoy it, love it, because competition, there's really no substitute for it. Like, there's not, like, for me, there's nothing like it. And I think that, like, for myself with my weightlifting, it's kind of a chance to compete against myself.
That's what I was getting ready to talk about.
Yeah. So I think I was as strong as I ever was in like 2018. And I don't know if I'll ever get back to that point. Just because I had the schedule to do it. I just was able to put everything together, the food, the sleep, and all that. But I love it. Like, hey, I might not ever get to that top point again, but it's still a cool way for me to like, hey, when you get under a bar, man, and it's loaded up with 200, 300, 400 pounds, like it's fight or flight.
Yeah.
Like you got to fight it, or otherwise don't get under it. So I think that little adrenaline rush, where it's like, hey, you got to fight gravity. You're fighting gravity, and for myself, it's just like a constant way for me to compete against myself from yesterday, from last week, and kind of keep that ball rolling as far as just keep moving. But also I enjoy it, and it might not be for everyone, but like you said, and like we talked about earlier, man, finding whatever it is. And golf, I mean, if people get into golf, you can keep track of your scores.
Yeah, you can. I've played by myself. Yeah, it may not be like as fun as going with a group, but it's still like you're competing with yourself there
Yeah.
because you know what you're capable of doing, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
know like your old scores, and like it's a par four. You want to get a par four. Like
Yeah.
that's what everybody strives for, is to get at least par or under
Right.
par. Doesn't happen very often for me, but I'll take what I can get.
Right. I'm the same way, man. Par threes are my jam right now.
Yeah, those. Well, I'm either hit or miss. I either like hit it right by the pin, or I like completely
Yeah.
miss the green.
You're chipping in
Yeah.
from like 30 yards out. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, sports is awesome, and we're gonna go into some of the final things. I have a question that I like to ask all of my guests, and it's one of my favorite questions. If you could go back in time and tell your 16-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
That's a great question. I would probably say to my 16-year-old self, all the work that you are putting in or are going to put in, it's going to pay off. So just keep going. Keep working hard at whatever it is. It's going to pay off in the end.
Mm-hmm. Kind of almost the flip side of that too. You could look at the stuff you don't do. You'll get those results as well.
Right. Absolutely.
If you don't put in the work, because I mean, I look back so many times at things that I've done. Like, yeah, I went on to the next level, played D3 college football, but I look at like I'm always like I should have done more. Like in
Right.
college, in high school, like I should have
yeah.
done more instead of I got the results they weren't the exact results I wanted, but I got some results, and I got the results I worked for. You get the results
Right.
you work for, no matter what it is.
Oh, yeah. And because you said it, like I look back, like I was very thankful with my track career and playing football, but like I should have done more film for football for sure.
That is the one thing I will
man.
give my brother so much credit for. He always told me, weight room and film room are going to be your best
It's
friends.
tough, man.
And like
Yeah.
it's so hard when you're 16, 17, 18 to sit there and just watch
Because you got
film that you've already seen twice. Like
you
don't
got to
wanna
know what
keep
you're
watching.
looking for
Yeah.
too. And until you've learned what you're looking for on film, and that's a great thing that I've continued to grow at as a coach, because it's easy to get focused on one, but if you're watching film with your team, right, there's 11 players on the screen. And so that's another thing as a staff you have to be on top of, and you have to delegate that. Like, hey, you guys break down film on offense or defense, or you're looking at O-line, D-line, DB, whatever it is, quarterback footwork. Like, so in high school, like I needed to do a better job of like understanding the film I was watching, not just saying like, hey, like you watch film and you're like, man, that kid's pretty good. He just ripped off the 40-yard run.
Like, I feel like when we're in high school, if you're watching it, you're like watching a football game.
Yeah,
You're
you're
not
like
actually studying film.
Right.
You're just watching the game. And I'll never forget Coach Cook one time. I went in because I only had I got out after fifth period. I came back early before practice and was watching film. I remember he like paused it and was like, Nixon, what do you think they're gonna run? And that was the point that I realized I'm not studying film. I'm just watching.
You're just watching, yeah.
And it was like, and he was like, this formation, this player's lined up here. And it's like, I mean, in high school, let's be real. Like, coaches are, it's a very tendency. You have it a lot more. It's not like you're not as complex, but you'll have those. But like, it's one of those things you look at, like film. You don't just watch it; you got to actually study it too. But I also didn't realize the things, like you said, like you didn't realize what to look for when you're 16, 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, like you said, with the tendencies, if you're a defensive guy looking at formations, shout out to Coach Warrington for always I don't know if he was still
yeah, his breakdowns.
Yes, his breakdown.
They ran this place 37 times in the past 3 games.
Exactly. And you mentioned Coach Cook. I do want to say this. I saw him on Tuesday at our 7-on-7. He's at Granville now. Shout out Coach Cook. 45 years coaching high school football this
Holy
year.
Cow.
Love that guy. He's always been great to me. He was my high school phys ed teacher my freshman year. And actually have a little family connection. Him and my grandfather served in Knights of Columbus together before my grandparents moved to North Myrtle Beach back in the early 2000s. So shout out Coach Cook. I'm glad you actually brought him up because I saw him this week and I went up to him, gave him a big hug. It was really great to see him. But yeah, man, our coaches, I think we almost beginning of the show, talked about how much time they put in. Coach Warrington was second to none with his defensive breakdown.
Yes.
You got a packet. It had whatever formation, and it was 16% of the time they run this play to the right. 7% they throw it back, and it's just as a high school player, you're all right, cool.
And he'd be on first down, they're more likely to run this play and this play, and you're just what? How much film?
Oh yeah,
we literally just got done playing last night. How do you already have?
Oh yeah,
and that's when you kind of put into perspective how much time he really did put into it.
Oh yeah, that's the being prepared and delivering,
mm-hmm.
And he did it so well. It's something now I see as a coach, reflect on. It's man, he put in a ton of time and work and was meticulous about it. And as a player, like you said, you don't realize that. But
That's
as you grow up and you're you really appreciate that.
Yeah. But this moves us into the best segment of the podcast, which is Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday is the point in the episode where I allow the guests to give the Roughnecks listeners a little inspirational bump to set the tone for their week as they listen on Monday morning. So what do you got for Motivation Monday?
All right. So for Motivation Monday, no matter where you are in your journey, wherever you are in life, wherever you are occupationally, do good work. Not just show up to work, not just show up to whatever it is you're doing. If you're in school, if you're in trade school, if you're in apprenticeship, whatever if you don't know where you're going next, right? You're in between. Do good work wherever you are because you're going to build those habits. If you're in, I worked farm jobs and that kind of stuff when I was in college, knowing that has nothing to do with teaching.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the habits, right? Wherever you are, do good work. Not just do work, not just show up, check the box, go through the motions. Do good work because it's going to set you up for wherever you're headed, wherever your dream job is or whatever. If you're going to start your own business, right? Build those good habits, do good work because in the end, it is going to help you out.
Showing up is just the first part.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just show up, just like in sports, just like in your work life, just like in a relationship, anything. You
Right.
can't just show up and expect it to be okay. And you can't just do the work, get by, because once again, kind of going back to what we already talked about, you get the results that you work for.
Yep.
So if you give, a half-ass, you half-ass it, you're gonna get half-ass results.
Right.
That's what it is. But if you put in the work and you do good work, you have a lot more potential to grow and improve. And I like that you talked about the farm jobs, man. That is some of the toughest stuff I've ever done. Has been farm type work. Even if you're in the tractor, it still is, tedious type stuff. Whatever it is tough work, but it's also good. Like you said, the habits, you build that work ethic. In my opinion, work ethic is one of the most important things to learn when you're young.
Mm-hmm.
And not anymore today. I feel like we're starting to lose a lot of it. It's not gone. There's still a lot of kids out there that, work their butts off. But, because, look at the difference from us compared to our parents or our grandparents. They grinded. And we had it a little easier. But I think we still grinded. But it just keeps getting easier and easier. And it's not to say technology is helping with that, equipment's helping with that, whatever it is. But you can't lose sight of work ethic. Work ethic will get you so far in life
Yeah.
if you have
No
it.
matter what avenue you're going into,
Mhm.
whatever arena you're going into, whether you're, serving, whether you're starting your own business, whether you're going into whatever occupation you're going into, it doesn't matter. Like you gotta, and I guess like we talked about farm jobs, whatever kind of job that it's tough. I call it, lack of a better term, just sucky jobs, right? Like you're doing it because you have to get wherever you're going, right? Use those as motivation
Mhm.
for your studies, for your business, for whatever. Use that kind of like, hey, I know I'm not going to want to do this forever. Whatever that job is for you, use that as like your motivation to complete your studies so you can get the degree to do
Mhm.
whatever job it is, to work on your own business when it's just you, right? You're just answering to yourself maybe at that point, to own that and have that great work ethic. Use those sucky times, those sucky jobs to motivate you to get where you want to go.
Yeah. And they will. They definitely will.
Yeah.
Because I remember jobs doing that I did, and it's like I, good for the people that do this for the rest of their
Right.
life.
Shout out to them. You
It,
are hard workers.
some of the stuff that you guys do, I give you credit, but then there's me, like, and people always give me credit because like I work a manual labor job outside, putting in pools and patios. Like that's what I do for a living. I
Mhm.
have a college degree, but I also look at like not everybody's meant to be in an office. Some people can't
Right.
sit in an office.
Yeah. So
Like they can't do it, and like me, I'm like I love my job. Like, and that's the
right.
thing. If you love going to work, if you wake up and you're not like, man, it's Monday, it's Tuesday,
Oh yeah.
whatever, I
I
gotta
ha-
go to work. I have to go to
it's
work.
a have to go to work rather than get to go to work.
I'm like, I get to the shop and like, yeah, I'm, still tired or whatever, but like, I'm like, you know what? It's going to be a good day. Like I get to be
Right.
outside. That's also the nice part. I get to be outside every day,
Mhm.
so it's pretty awesome. But then it's like, I get to be outside. I work with people that I truly enjoy being
Mhm.
around. Why would I quit a job that I don't, or that I do like to go work a job I don't like?
Right.
You should, do I don't even remember the saying, something, find what you love
If
and
you
you'll
do
never.
what you love, you never work a day
That's
in
what
your
it is,
life.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and then a lot of cliche sayings get said on this podcast, and they have for over 100 episodes, which
But
is
they're
fine.
true,
But
right?
they are so true.
Yeah.
So, but hey, I really appreciate you coming on. That's a wrap on this episode. I don't even know what episode we're on anymore. I just kind of go with the flow on the guest episodes anymore. I don't actually say the number because anymore in my episodes gets so messed up. But I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate it. We'll probably definitely have you back on in the future.
Hey man, I really appreciate it. Glad we were able to finally get it worked out to happen, and I'd be happy to come back on anytime you want.
But until Friday, you guys know the deal. Life is hard and it's going to knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. Don't let that bull of life walk all over you. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Roughnecks.
Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the Roughnecks Podcast. If you liked today's episode, then be sure to subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with a friend if you got some value from it. Head over to social media and follow the Roughnecks Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and subscribe to that YouTube channel. Don't forget to get you some of that merch by heading over to roughneckspodcast.com and subscribe to the newsletter while you're there. See y'all next week. Roughnecks out.